Okay, so we're looking at a script that unpacks those leaked Taylor Swift and Blake Lively texts about the Justin Baldoni drum. It's trying to build a bigger case about misandry from there.
Right. Let's get into it.
The first thing that jumps out to me is a foundational issue. The whole argument is built on two totally different types of proof. You've got court documents, leaked private texts on one side, and then you have song lyrics on the other.
And the script is just kind of mushing them all together, like they carry the same weight.
Exact. And reading it, I found myself pushing back against the argument, even though I think the point is really interesting. So why does that happen? Why does putting a text next to a lyric make the whole thing feel weaker?
Well, it's because our brains just process them differently, right? I see a text message, especially one from a legal filing, and I immediately think, okay, that's conduct.
That's a thing that actually happened.
Yeah, a real person said that to another real person. But when I hear a song lyric, my brain automatically files it under art. It's a performance. It's a narrative.
It's a heightened reality.
For sure. So when the script jumps from that Roman Empire text straight to analyzing So Long London, it feels like a logical leap, a cheat almost.
Like it's saying, see, she's mean here and she's mean here, so it's the same.
But the audience is thinking, hang on, one is her life, the other is her job. And the real danger is that you end up weakening your best evidence.
You're diluting the hard facts.
Right. You have this smoking gun with the text, but you're burying it under a pile of literary analysis.
So how do we fix that? Because both pieces are relevant, they can't live in the same house.
You have to build a wall between them. Split the script into two really distinct sections. The first part, you could call it the conduct.
Okay.
That's the news, the texts, the legal stuff. Let it stand on its own because honestly, it's damning enough without any extra commentary.
And then you bring in the music later?
Then you pivot. You make a clear transition. Say something like, okay, we've seen the private behavior. Now let's look at how that same attitude is packaged for public consumption.
You frame the lyrics as the narrative.
Exactly. You're not saying the songs are proof. You're saying the songs corroborate the psychology we already saw in the legal documents.
That's a really critical distinction. It changes the claim from this song proves she's a man-hater to this song's attitude seems to align with what we see in these texts.
It makes the whole thing feel less like a conspiracy and more like, a piece of analysis.
Speaking of the texts, there's one that the script mentioned, but I feel like it glides past the Roman Empire one.
We are the Roman Empire.
Yeah, the script treats it as just another weird, clicky comment, but I think there's so much more there, isn't there? It's such a strange thing to say.
It's grandiose, it's imperial. Honestly, if it were my script, I think I'd make that the central metaphor for the whole thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Forget Mean Girls, that's high school drama. Calling yourselves the Roman Empire, that's about conquest.
That's exactly what I was thinking. If you frame her as an emperor, not a mean girl, the Baldoni situation makes so much more sense. He wasn't just a colleague she disagreed with.
He was a rebellious province.
Yes. And what do empires do?
They crush rebellions. They don't just win the argument, they salt the earth so nothing can grow back. And that text, that idea, it perfectly bridges her legal behavior and her art.
So in court, she crushes the opposition.
And in the songs, she writes the official history of what happened.
History is written by the victor.
Precisely. Using that Roman Empire idea as the spine of the script would tie everything together so much more tightly. It explains the business ruthlessness and the nature of the breakup songs.
Okay, but I want to talk about how that ruthlessness is described in the draft, because the tone is, well, it's a problem.
It's way too hot.
I mean, there's a point where the script actually says, I'm not saying she's Hitler, but...
Oh, yeah. I had to pause when I read that.
It just completely pushes you out of the argument.
It is the fastest way to lose anyone who isn't already 100% on your side. The second you drop a name like that, or even just keep using words like despicable and shameful, you stop sounding like an analyst.
You sound like a hater.
And the moment the audience flags you as a hater, they dismiss your facts, no matter how good they are.
It's that classic show, don't tell problem.
It really is. The writer is doing all the emotional heavy lifting for the audience. They're yelling, "This is outrageous!" The much more powerful move is to be clinical, cold even.
Just present the evidence.
Read the text where she mocks his mental health. Read it verbatim, and then just stop talking. Let it hang in the air.
Let the audience be the one to feel the outrage.
Right. There's this weird psychological thing where if the host is freaking out, the audience almost feels a need to calm down and defend the subject. If you're calm, they're free to get angry.
So a concrete example would be, instead of saying, she has a real misandry problem.
Which is such a loaded term, it puts people on the defensive instantly.
Right. Instead of that, you describe the pattern. Something like, we see a recurring pattern of dismissing male emotional vulnerability.
See, that sounds like a diagnosis. It's objective. It describes an action, not an identity. It's much harder to argue with a description of behavior than a label.
So let's apply that to the little violin text. The script just calls it mean. But if we look at it clinically, what's actually happening there?
She's weaponizing gender against his emotion. The little violin is code for you're being soft, you're being weak.
Which is just profoundly ironic, isn't it? Her entire brand is built on celebrating emotional vulnerability.
And that right there, that's a key theme. We could call it the hypocrisy of vulnerability. She built an empire, there's that word again, on monetizing her own sadness.
But when a man in her orbit expresses his,
It's an inconvenience. It's a drag. It's a little violin.
that's a devastating point. My victimhood is a product, yours is an annoyance.
It's the imperial mindset. The emperor is the main character of reality. Everyone else is an NPC. If an NPC starts having feelings, they're just glitching the game.
That's a perfect way to put it. And it shows why the structure we talked about earlier is so important. The current draft jumps around so much, you miss that connection.
Yeah, it feels like stream of conscious, like the writer is just listing grievances as they come to mind.
So let's map out a better flow, a clear roadmap for the listener.
Okay, you have to lead them. So section 1 is simply the news, the hook, the leaked texts, the little violin, the fight with Sony over the final cut. Ground us in the what just happened.
Establish the core then what?
Section 2, the pattern. This is where you zoom out. You ask, okay, this happened with Baldoni. Is this a one-off? Then you bring in the Matty Healy lyrics, the Joe Alwyn stuff. You show this is a recurring behavior.
Okay, news, then pattern. Section 3?
The culture. This is where you talk about the fan base, the demographic the script mentioned. You explain why this behavior gets a pass. And then finally, section 4 is the future.
The trial in May.
Right, that flow, news, pattern, culture, future, it creates an actual arc. It turns a list of complaints into a compelling story.
I want to go back to section 3, the culture. The script has a bit of a sneer when it talks about the fan. It calls them normies and basically says they're brainwashed.
Yeah, calling your potential audience brainwashed is not generally a good look.
But it's more than just being rude. It's a missed opportunity. Why do they defend her so fiercely? To make a strong argument, you have to understand the other side's logic.
You have to steelman their argument. You build the best, strongest possible version of their perspective, and then you take it apart.
Because to a fan, she's not a bully, she's a survivor.
She's a woman who won in a man's world. So you have to acknowledge that. You start by saying, look, from millions of people, seeing Taylor Swift force a movie studio to bend to her will is a moment of pure empowerment.
You validate their feeling, and then you pivot.
Then you drop the hammer. You ask the tough question. But is it a victory for feminism if beating the boys at their own game means adopting the exact same tactics of bullying and silencing dissent?
Ooh, that's sharp.
Have you actually smashed the patriarchy? Or have you just swapped out a patriarch for a matriarch?
That brings it right back to the Roman Empire. It's not a revolution, it's just a new emperor.
Exactly. And that's a critique that a fan might actually listen to. It doesn't call them stupid. It challenges that definition of what winning looks like.
Okay, on that note, what about the Matty Healy part? The script tries to argue his bad reputation is undeserved.
Which is a losing battle from the start. His reputation is what it is. If you spend time trying to convince the audience he's secretly a great guy, you're going to lose them.
So how do you approach it?
You don't defend him. You defend the principle. You grant the premise. You say, okay, let's say he's a jerk. Let's say he's problematic and deserves to be called out. But is it ever ethically acceptable to out a recovering addict's relapse in a pop song for commercial gain? It doesn't matter if the addict is a saint or a sinner.
You focus on the act itself.
The act is the moral question. That sidesteps the whole Team Taylor versus Team Maddie nonsense and elevates the conversation to one about ethics.
I think elevate the conversation is the key to this whole rewrite. The source material is gossip, it's drama. The analysis needs to be bigger, sociological.
Yes, and that brings us to the end. the future. The draft just kind of fades out, but you mentioned the trial.
That's the climax of the story you've been telling. You've laid out the texts, the pattern, the fan base. Now you put all those ingredients into the pressure cooker of a court.
And the script mentions she could be a hostile witness.
Which is just a fascinating idea. Imagine this person, this emperor who is used to controlling every single narrative, every camera angle, suddenly sitting in a witness box where she controls nothing.
And what happens if she feels cornered? Does she use the little violin tactic on the stand?
Does she activate the fan base against the legal system itself?
That's the cliffhanger. It raises the stakes from, did she send a mean text, to, can our judicial system withstand this level of cultural power? That's a real question.
And a much stronger ending than like and subscribe.
It leaves the listener with something to think about. It makes the whole piece feel urgent and important.
I want to go back to the hyperbole for just a second, the Hitler thing. We said to remove it, but I think it's important the writer understands why that stuff happened. It comes from passion, right?
It usually comes from a lack of confidence in your own evidence. When you feel like your facts aren't dramatic enough on their own, you reach for the loudest, most extreme language you can find.
So using those big, scary words is actually a sign of weakness in your argument?
It's a tell. It says, I don't trust my audience to get it. But the evidence here is strong. The text where she calls Baldoni a bitch to Blake Lively, that says everything. It doesn't need a siren on it.
The hyperbole is like a giant, ugly neon lamp in an otherwise well-decorated.
Throw out the lamp. Let people see the room.
Throw out the lamp might be the best single piece of advice for this script.
Seriously. If you just cut all that stuff, you find a much sharper, more dangerous, and frankly more convincing argument hiding underneath.
Okay, last point. The liberal white women and misandry claim. The script says they hate men. We suggested reframing that.
Yeah, I don't think hate is quite right. It feels more like protectionism. They aren't just fans, they're a volunteer defense force. They see any criticism of her not as an opinion, but as an attack.
So when Baldoni fights for his director's cut,
they don't see a filmmaker trying to protect his vision, they see a man attacking their queen. And because the culture around her has primed them to view all male opposition as sexist,
they respond with what they see as righteous fury. They think they're fighting the patriarchy.
But they're actually just enforcing the emperor's will, and that's a critical distinction. It explains the ferocity of the attacks on him. It wasn't about a movie, it was a crusade.
Crusade is the perfect word. Wow, this rewrite is really coming together. It feels much more substantial.
It feels like an argument that matters.
Okay, let's just recap the blueprint for the writer. It's a big job, but the raw material is all there.
Totally. Step 1, divide and conquer.
Split the script. Conduct versus narrative. Use that Roman Empire text as the bridge between them.
Step 2, tone it down.
Throw out the lamp. No hyperbole. Be clinical. Let the evidence speak for itself.
Step 3, the structure.
Build a clear narrative path. News, then pattern, then culture, then future. Lead the listener. Don't make them chase the argument. And finally, the most important one maybe,
respect your opponent. Seal-man the fan perspective so that when you deconstruct it, the critique has real weight. Show you understand the appeal before you explain how that appeal is being weaponized.
Weaponized love. That's another great phrase.
There's so much good stuff here if the writer just clears away the noise.
And if they do that, this piece stops being just another commentary video and becomes a lasting video essay.
It's the difference between a rant and a real critique. A rant makes you feel good for a minute. A critique can actually change minds.
I think that's the perfect place to leave. To the writer, you have incredible evidence here. Trust it, organize it, and please, for everyone's sake, delete the Hitler comparison.
Delete it, then empty the trash.
We would love to see the next draft. This has the potential to be a killer piece. Thanks for submitting.
Keep at it.
We'll see you next time.